You know, guys, I cannot help but think that at some point you're going to get real tired of watching these videos where I'm talking in front of a whiteboard. But that's okay, because if we were here in person, you could get tired of it too, just in person. And hopefully the videos are, maybe a little less painful. Anyway, this is for Latin 1. It's about personal pronouns. I mean, by all means, Latin 3 or anybody else, if you need a review on this, feel free to watch. But this is specifically for Latin 1 because where we are in this moment is that the book is starting to use a lot of pronouns in the text. Thing is, they're not talking about the pronouns. Ecce Romani has this kind of interesting thing going on where they like to use a thing and then not tell you about it, at least for a while, and just see how much you figure out just because they're using it on the page. And some people definitely work that way and definitely get it, and other people don't get it. And so this video is for everybody who hasn't quite figured it out because they, actually need to be taught the thing and can't just be exposed and, glean it from the air. So personal pronouns. Now, this does actually tie into something that we're already doing and that I've already posted videos on, and that's actually our verbs, believe it or not. Pronouns are not verbs, but we call these personal pronouns, and that term personal pronouns does actually correspond to our personal endings, right? These are the endings that we talked about going on to verbs, and go back and watch the video on the endings that verbs get, because they are called personal endings, right? So there's a first, second, and third person personal ending for both the singular and the plural, and that changes the meaning of the verb by telling you essentially who the subject of that verb is. So the first person would be I or we if it's plural. Second person would be you, or it's actually still you if it's plural, but most people like to throw a you all or something in there. He, she, it would be third singular, they would be third plural. And so those are, in fact, our personal pronouns. That's what the pronouns are, that's what they mean in English, and these endings correspond to those. But Latin does actually have words for those pronouns too. You may not always see them because they're implied by the verb, but sometimes you do see them. Ecce Romani has already, at the point where we are in the semester, has already used a few of them as vocab words, but they haven't gotten into any details beyond that. And that can be slightly confusing because this refers to when these pronouns are the subject of your verb, but pronouns don't have to be the subject. Pronouns, their job is to take the place of nouns. And as we have become abundantly clear, nouns are not always the subject of the sentence. Sometimes they're an object of the verb. Sometimes they're an object of a preposition. Sometimes they're going to be doing other things like showing possession or being an indirect object or some other kind of adverbial use, right? That's why we have all those cases. And so I feel like it's time for us to go ahead and introduce the cases as well of personal pronouns. Now, this is your first person personal pronoun, and you have seen not all of these forms yet, but you've seen some of them, unless you're watching this sometime further off in the future, and then you may have seen all of them, right? So hopefully you'll recognize already ego as one of our vocab words, because it does mean I, and it is introduced right about the point in the book where most of you are if you're watching this around the time of the posting. Everybody in here has seen may, the accusative object form already. They did not tell you what it meant. They just threw it in there and assumed that you would think that it means me, which it does. Because just like in Latin, I and me are the same word, but I is the subject form, me is the object form. It's one of the few places where English's vestiges of case declension still exists. And it's very much related to this Latin form here. But I went ahead and put the other forms up here so you'd have them for reference. So you have mei, mei for the genitive, so that would mean of me. You're not going to see that form very often. Mihi, that's the indirect object form, to or for me. And then the ablative form that we'll be talking about more in a video that's coming soon actually is the exact same as the accusative. Even if you wanted to use long marks to distinguish them, it won't help because they're both naturally long. Some words you've seen a little less but are coming up real soon are the words we and us, which are actually the same, nos and nos. And then this is weird because there's two genitives, nostri, nostrum. Latin 1, you're not at a point where you need to know why there's two genitives. Just know that if you see either one of them, which you're not really going to very much, just translate it as of us. If you do that, you're good. And then of course you got nobis and nobis, the dative nobis, to or for us, the ablative nobis, which again, we'll talk more about ablatives really soon. Probably sooner than you want. Really soon. Probably the next video. All right. So these also correspond pretty closely to the second person forms, the forms of you. We have seen two already, the nominative second person form as a vocab word, and I think we've seen the accusative form te already. We'll be seeing the rest of these real soon, but you notice they look a whole lot like the first person. So tui looks a whole lot like mei, tibi looks a whole lot like mihi, not exactly the same, and yes, that this one's a B and the other one is an H. I didn't write messy. The accusative and ablative are the same again. And over here, you've got wos and wos, just like nos and nos. You've got wobis and wobis, like nobis and nobis. And then you have westri and westrum. And no, I have no idea why it's an E instead of an O. I'm sure there's a grammarian who's explained the morphology of this word. But I am not that grammarian and I have not read their works. So feel free to look that up if you want to, or feel free just to know that if you see these words, and you're not going to see these ones much, that if you see them, it's translated as of you, the plural you. Okay? Now, I'm going to stop there for now. There is a third person pronoun, clearly there would have to be, that does correspond to your he, she, it, and they, but it's a little more involved, so I'm going to do that in a separate video, and I'll do that soon as well. But I figured let's go ahead and get our first and second person up, and then I'll get into the third person, in a different one. But this will get you started. And if you see any of those pronoun forms in your text, now you don't have to guess about it because the book isn't going to introduce this pronoun for some reason until the very end, and we don't need to wait that long. We could just know about it now. All right, Latin 1, I'll see you again real soon, real soon. All right.